There are no downsides to having that money because it will eventually, in retirement, be available to you regardless of medical expenses. And when medical expenses come up, because you are worried about having those major medical expenses constantly, it's there for you to use. The HSA is the best option mathematically most of the time. Welcome to the Teacher Money Show, the podcast dedicated to helping teachers navigate your unique financial challenges and unlock your financial superpowers. I'm your host, Shaun Morgan, a full-time teacher. That's right, I teach every day just like you, and personal financial coach. And I'm here to help every teacher, whether you're a seasoned teacher looking for fresh insights or a new educator navigating your first paycheck, to have a richer wallet, classroom, and life. The contents of this podcast are informational in nature and are not legal or tax advice, and neither I nor my guests are engaged in the provision of legal, tax, or any other advice. You should not act upon this information without first seeking appropriate advice from an accountant, financial planner, lawyer, or other professional. We're back with another episode with just me, but this one's breaking from our financial basics series that I've been doing, and we're going to do something special. We have an extra day in the year this year, which is kind of thrown off my February and March. So because of that, I've got an extra day for me to record and talk to you. And I want to talk to you about something that I think is really, really cool, which is an HSA, or a health savings account. Now, you might be like, wow, a health savings account, whoop-de-doo. But they're actually one of the most amazing things that we have for our personal financial situations when it comes to insurance, for a lot of reasons, and I'll talk about those. So first of all, what is a health savings account? It is a place for you to put your own money in that you can then use on medical expenses. Now, why is this special? Well, the money that you put into your health saving account goes in before you pay taxes, okay? And if you put money in after taxes, they'll reimburse you from tax time. But the point is that that money is tax-free if it goes into your health savings account, as long as that money is then used for medical expenses, qualified medical expenses. Now, what is a qualified medical expense? Well, the list is actually quite extensive. Any medical expense. So anything that you have to pay to meet your deductible, right? Co-payments, co-insurance, and a ton of other things. I mean, I can't list all of them right now, but to just give you an idea of things that are qualified medical expenses, you can, get aspirin, Band-Aids, ibuprofen. Crutches can also be included, wheelchairs, things for having, like child care, such as storage for, breast milk, baby ointments, uh, Pedialyte, uh, sometimes even like contraceptives and prenatal vitamins and devices that you might need for emergency medical situations. There's just tons of things that it can fall under, that you can use this money on. Now, you might want to double check before you make a purchase if you're unsure about it, but it's really, really handy to have the option to use that tax-free money for those purchases. Uh, that being said, what is not an HSA? Well, an HSA is completely different than an FSA. An FSA is a flexible spending account, which I think is a terrible name because, in my opinion, they are not flexible. Flexible spending accounts are required to be spent for medical purposes. And unlike the HSA, which the money is yours and is something that you can roll over from year to year to year to year to year, and you just keep it and it can accumulate. An FSA is a use it or lose it type of situation. Now, if you have a ton of medical expenses every year, FSAs do have their place because you're going to use it. But they're entirely different things. You spend the money on the same types of things, but one is your money and one is provided by your insurance company. Now, other important things to know about an HSA. HSAs are only available for high deductible insurance plans. I think the minimum is around $1,600 of a deductible, which As far as high deductibles go, that isn't actually that terribly high, but deductibles can go much, much higher than that. And the higher it goes, there's like another cap point where you can use more and more of your HSA funds in different ways. Once again, this is an overview, so I don't want to get into the weeds, but the point is that you need to have a high deductible plan, and your insurance provider will know, and usually will call it an HSA plan if it has that high deductible qualification. Other things to be aware of is the amount of money that you can put into an HSA. Once again, tax free if you put it in, and tax free if you use it for qualified expenses. Is that if you are only covering yourself with your HSA, you can only put in $4,150 per year. If you're listening to this later years, the amount's probably going to go up. So just realize that's going to be adjusted from year to year to year. The maximum contribution for a family is $8,300. So it's not like you can put all of your money in tax-free, but you can still put away a large chunk of money and avoid taxes on that money if you're going to use it for qualified medical expenses. If you are above the age of 55, of course, you have a catch-up amount, which is currently $1,000, but that is also subject to change. Why are these so great, though? Other than being completely tax-free on medical expenses, right? That's once again, that's huge, okay? If you are not paying taxes on everything that you are spending on your medical bills every single year, that's not a small amount of money, okay? The other benefit is this tax advantage. It goes in tax-free, comes out tax-free, but it also can grow tax-free. HSA money is able to be invested if you have a good HSA provider. This is one of the biggest things to look for an HSA provider. Are they charging you fees just for the privilege of having an HSA, like absorbent amounts? I had an HSA provider that charged me $1.50 a month just because I happened to have an account with them. It was not worth it. I wasn't using the money very much. I wasn't putting very much in. So it just was sucking away a huge amount of my money that was going into the HSA. I have another HSA provider now, doesn't charge me anything. It just they are taking their fees off of the investment side of it. So you need to make sure that you are looking at what the fees are for having that HSA. But like I said, you can invest that long term. So if you don't have high fees, just have the account and you can invest it. That's probably a good HSA account. Now, investing it, what does that look like? Well, usually an HSA provider will have a reserve amount. Like, okay, you need to keep this for your basic medical expenses. My provider has a $2,000 reserve amount that I cannot invest. But after I've met that reserve requirement, then I can start investing the money above that for the long term, which is fantastic because that money that's invested in growing, all of that growth will be tax free. So it is tax free going in, like a regular tax deferred account, like a regular 403(b). Then it grows tax free and it comes out on the other end after the growth tax free, like a Roth account. So instead of having just the tax advantage on one side or the other, you have the tax advantage throughout the whole process. Now you might be like, well, you can only use it for medical expenses, so why does that matter? Well, for a few reasons. One, if you wait to use that money that's grown until you retire when you're going to need the most medical expenses, which is one of the number one leading causes of bankruptcy and retirement, then you're going to need that money. But the other great benefit of an HSA is that that money becomes usable like a regular retirement account after retirement age. So it doesn't even have to be used for medical expenses. Let's say you are extremely healthy and you want to just, access that money to live on for retirement. Once you've reached, that minimum retirement age, you are no longer going to be penalized for pulling that out for non-medical expenses. So it basically acts like a retirement account, just like a 403(b), like a 457(b), in that way once you've hit retirement age. It is a very, very powerful way to invest your money because of those tax advantages all along the way. Now, you might be wondering, yes, it's helpful, but I've got a lot of medical expenses. I can't afford to have, those high deductible plans. I need to have the really super expensive insurance. And I'm going to show you that that's not necessarily the best choice. So I'm going to throw some numbers at you, and I apologize for this, but these are real numbers from a real plan. Okay, it's very possible your plan is just like this or very similar. Um, let's say you have option one, and this is a family. So the family plan got all the big numbers for a family. Option one is total yearly premium of $2,220, $2,250 a month, right? So in the course of a year, that'll be around $27,000 paid out in premium. Okay, so that's where the expensive option really hurts is in the premium. If they have the HSA option, which is the high deductible option, you'll pay around $1,417 in this example. Okay, once again, your mileage may vary. And so that'd be $17,000 in the year. So it's a $10,000 difference. You say, well, I'm not healthy, so I'm going to pay all this extra money. So therefore, it's worthwhile for me to pay that amount. Well, let's consider this. Let's say you visit the doctor 24 times a year. Okay. Um, and I'm just throwing that out there as an example. And you have, to pay out, your copay or hitting your deductible, depending on the plan you're in. The copays for the first plan would come up to $720, and then, just paying out to reach your deductible and paying your portion comes out to $4,800 for option two with the HSA. You're like, wow, that's a big difference. It is, but let's keep thinking about it. Prescriptions, right? Prescriptions are better covered by the first option. So you have to pay more out of pocket for the second option, let's say $480 and $2,400. Once again, this is based on your deductible and your amount that you are required to pay out for prescriptions each time you go. Other medical, let's say you have other reasons that you need medical care, let's say $800 because they have those limits that you have to pay for other medical for the first plan and $3,000 for the HSA plan. If you have met this so far, you have paid $29,000, right? Just up $2,000 from the 27,000. That's great for the first plan, but you've only paid $27,200 for your HSA plan. So even with that $4,800, that $2,400, that $3,000, because of the difference in premium, you are still paying less out of your own pocket to have the HSA plan with the high deductible. Now, you might be like, well, I've got all these medical issues. I'm going to hit my out-of-pocket maximum. So therefore, option one is much better. Well, in this plan, the out-of-pocket maximum for a family is $6,000 for the main plan, which is $33,000 out of pocket. But for the HSA plan, it's $12,000, which is $29,000 out of pocket. So if you hit the out-of-pocket maximum for both options, you're $4,000 better off using the HSA plan. Even though the out-of-pocket maximum sounds so incredibly high for the HSA plan, because the premiums are so much lower, you end up paying less money hitting your out-of-pocket maximum with the HSA than with the high premium account where you're just paying that regular amount every single month. This is not guaranteed to be your situation. Okay, the way you're going to figure this out is you are going to say, okay, what is my premium every single month? Times that by 12. What is the out-of-pocket maximum? Add that to that number. And then you'll compare plans based on how much I pay every single month and out-of-pocket maximum. That's the quick back of the napkin way to find out if you are in a medical situation where you have to pay a lot of money every single year, which option is going to be better for you. Now, you can look back at your previous year and say, okay, we went to the doctor this many times, we had this many prescriptions, we had this many, and you can really get granular and try and project where you're going to be at. But the point is, because the premium is so much lower for the HSA, you have such a large amount to make up. So as this one's creeping up just a little bit at a time, and this one's creeping up really fast, by the time you hit the out-of-pocket maximum, you're most likely still going to be under on the HSA. And that's just in money out of your pocket. So let's consider the other benefit of an HSA. Premiums paid to your insurance company are not tax deductible. Okay, they are not tax deductible. But money put into your HSA is tax deductible. So if you have paid the total amount into your HSA, or let's say you paid out $7,750, right? That's I think that's last year's total, but that's just where I did the math on. Um, that's a decent amount of money that you have contributed to your HSA and then paid out to your insurance costs. Well, since you're using it all those things, you're meeting their criteria to put it in tax-free and take it out tax-free. So based on your, income bracket, you could probably save between $930 and $1,750. I'm basing that off of median teacher salaries and what I'm assuming you're making as a teacher. Right? If you're making $20,000, naturally you have zero taxes, so it makes no difference. And if you're making $300,000 because your spouse is a doctor and you are a teacher, then that's going to, more drastically impact your tax burden. But you're saving $1,000, $1,200, somewhere in there in taxes by using your HSA. So adjusting for taxes, the yearly cost for a regular plan where you're paying out premiums every single month, and then you get the benefit of then having lower amounts every time you go to the doctor, you pay $33,000 because once again, it's the total amount you pay in the premium plus the out-of-pocket maximum, and you get no benefits, so there's no deductions from that. And if you have the HSA plan, right, we talked about $17,000 is what was coming out for your premium, and then you have the amount that you're paying on top of that, building until you hit that $12,000 out-of-pocket maximum for a total of $29,000. Okay, but then you reduce that by the amount that you save in taxes. So we're talking about $28,000, $27,800, somewhere in there or more, because of how much you are saving in taxes. Now, if you have a bad year, that's the worst case scenario, is that everything you put in to your HSA comes out, and that's you get the tax benefit. But let's say you have a good year and all that money that you put in doesn't get used. So let's say you don't hit that out-of-pocket maximum. Now you have money sitting there, ready to go. So next time you have a bad year, you have that money without putting it in that year. Or you have that money, able to sit there and slowly build over time until you hit that minimum qualification, and you're able to invest that money long term. There are no downsides to having that money because it will eventually, in retirement, be available to you regardless of medical expenses. And when medical expenses come up, because you are worried about having those major medical expenses constantly, it's there for you to use. The HSA is the best option mathematically most of the time. Now, you do need to do the math yourself. Okay. I chose an example plan to show you how the numbers work. But let's say that you have a plan where, wonder miracle of miracles, your total monthly premium is only $1,800 instead of $2,200, and you still have like the $1,500 HSA plan. That would be crazy. But in that case, the numbers might be a little different. So you need to, run the math. But I'm telling you that most insurance companies have figured this out, that they will make more money if they offer these plans with, high premiums, but then lower amounts. And that's where they are trying to make their money up for those people who are beset with medical issues, because they know they're going to have to pay out a lot of money for those people. And they know that the HSA with the high deductible sounds scary. So they're able to charge a premium like a literal premium on those higher plans, because that's where they're trying to make up the money. Okay, they have figured it down to the exact penny how much they need to not lose money. So that's what they're doing. Now, that being said, your decision is up to you. If you just feel like you're going to sleep better at night, not having to pay out thousands of dollars to hit your deductible, um, then you can just choose to have it come out of your paycheck. So that way you don't have to worry about it. Like some people know themselves. They know I'm going to spend that money if it's in my bank. I won't be able to control my spending, right? Because if you can put away $8,300 in your HSA, but then you have another $4,000 that has to be paid out before you hit your out-of-pocket maximum, you might be worried, where's that $4,000 going to come from? Now, hopefully you've been tracking your spending and doing things to get your spending under control, so that way you can plan for that and have that money set aside. But if you're still worried about that, then the first option might be a better option just for the psychological effect of having that money already out the window so you don't have to worry about keeping it. Um, there's a lot to be said for playing to your own biases as a human being and making sure that you handle those things automatically. And that's the only reason I can think of why the first plan would be a better option, is just to make sure that your expenses are being met without you hitting a medical emergency and not knowing where that money is going to come from and get into a worse kind of debt as a result. So, just one more time, I want to remind you to do the math. The math is the only way you're going to know what the best option is for you. You can easily calculate the plan that's best for you by taking the total cost of the premium, so how much you spend every month times 12, and adding the family out-of-pocket maximum, because it is a family that you have to worry about. If everyone got sick, then you hit the family one. But if it's an individual, then you might actually have a better you're better off if you have that individual is the only one that's getting sick, then it could actually work out even more in your favor. But always, always based off of the worst case scenario. And then if the cheaper premium comes out better, you know what the better option is. If not, you need to do some more complicated math, right? I could explain how you would be able to, chart it and figure it out with like a graph. I'm sure that there's a mathematician that could explain a really easy way to just type it in and make it happen, but I could show you like the mechanics of how it works to figure out what the best option is if your HSA plan comes out having that higher number. But I would be willing to bet if I had 10 of you or even 50 of you that only a handful would have that situation, if any. So do that calculation, figure out for yourself what the best option is for you, and go from there. Now, your company that you work for, your school district that you work for, might not offer an HSA plan. I understand that, and that's too bad. You can always advocate for yourself. Ask them to offer an HSA plan. Or if you have a high deductible plan, but they don't have an HSA associated with that plan, talk to your HR and find out if you can open up your own HSA plan. I opened up an HSA with Fidelity because that company was charging me $1.50 every single month for the privilege of having that HSA. And I said, no, I'm going to open up my own. And I just put in after-tax dollars, and then I was able to get reimbursed for that on the back end from my tax return. So there is that option available to you. Once again, talk to a professional, make sure that it's available to you and that is the right option for you. If you don't have the HSA offered, or if the HSA provider for your school is terrible, which mine was. And if it is terrible, once again, advocate for yourself. Say, hello, this HSA provider is fleecing us. We need to have a different HSA provider. And if you are loud enough about it, your school might just change. If you have any questions about an HSA, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you about it, talk through your exact situation. If you'd like to get full coaching on that or any question, you can come on the show, teachyourmoneyshow.com/guest, fill out the form there. You can come on. And I just ask you to please share this show with a teacher friend. You know that every teacher friend that you have most likely needs help with their finances. And I am wanting to help every teacher have a richer wallet faster in life. And the only way that they can know that I'm doing this, that I have this mission, is if you tell them. Remember, you're already rich, but your wallet just needs to catch up.
If you'd like to come on the podcast for coaching, to share an expert opinion, or just to talk about a topic you think is relevant, I'd love to talk to you. Just fill out the form at teachermoneyshow.com/guest. I look forward to talking with you.